The more you understand her pain, the less she respects yours. That's the paradox men never see coming. You pour yourself into her healing, only to find your own needs silenced. What felt like love at first slowly turns into a prison built from your own compassion. Have you ever been with a woman who acted like your girlfriend for months, until the moment you asked where this was going, suddenly she hits you with, "I'm not ready," and you're left spinning. You start asking yourself the same questions on repeat. What did I do wrong? Why does she pull away when everything feels so real? What ghosts from her past are still haunting her? So you dig deeper. You search for answers in her childhood stories, in her broken relationships, in her family drama. You play detective, therapist, savior, all rolled into one. And you convince yourself that if you can just understand her enough, you'll unlock the version of her who finally loves you back. But here's the brutal truth 6 months later. You're still stuck in the same place. No commitment, no progress. Just endless conversations about her issues while you quietly lose your mind. You've earned a PhD in her psychology and gained nothing in your own relationship. That's the emotional trap most men never see coming. The belief that understanding her wounds will somehow heal them. The belief that empathy and patience can transform dysfunction into love. It feels noble. It feels romantic. But in reality, it's the very thing destroying your sanity while keeping her comfortable. And today, I'm going to rip the mask off that illusion. Because if you've ever been the guy who gives everything, understands everything, but never gets what he actually needs, what you'll hear in the next few minutes might shock you. But it will also set you free. You think understanding her is progress, that every time she opens up about her past, every time she cries about an ex, every time she tells you a piece of her trauma, you're moving closer to something real. It feels like intimacy. It feels like you're peeling back layers, earning trust, building a foundation. But that's the illusion. The more you learn, the deeper you sink into a cycle that doesn't move forward. You're not building a relationship, you're building tolerance for dysfunction. Most men are conditioned to believe that love is about patience, empathy, and understanding. That if she's broken, your job is to help fix her. That if she's scared, your role is to make her feel safe. That if she's distant, you should hold her closer until she finally lets down her walls. It sounds noble. It sounds like the definition of being a good man. But what if that mindset is exactly what keeps you stuck? Because here's the harsh truth. Understanding why she treats you a certain way doesn't make her treat you better. Understanding why she can't commit doesn't magically make her commit. Understanding why she shuts down emotionally doesn't suddenly make her open up. All it does is train you to tolerate behavior you should never accept. The more reasons you collect for why she can't love you properly, the easier it becomes to justify staying in a relationship where your needs are never met. And that's the trap, the understanding trap. It disguises itself as progress. It feels productive. You're learning, you're analyzing, you're connecting dots in her psychology. Every new piece of information feels like a step toward a breakthrough. But nothing actually changes. It's sophisticated procrastination. It's emotional quicksand. You get pulled deeper and deeper while convincing yourself you're moving forward. Think about it. You've probably told yourself, she's like this because of her childhood. She just needs time. She just needs someone who won't give up on her. And so you wait. You give. You listen. You explain. You comfort. 6 months later, you look around and realize you're still in the same conversations, still trying to prove you're different, still trying to earn her love. The only difference is that now you're drained, frustrated, and addicted to the hope that tomorrow she'll finally change. That's why men stay in relationships that slowly kill them, because it doesn't feel like they're wasting time. It feels like they're doing the right thing. It feels like they're being patient, compassionate, loyal. But what's really happening is that you're being conditioned to accept less than you deserve. You're being trained to mistake emotional suffering for strength. And the longer you stay, the harder it becomes to walk away. Because leaving would mean admitting that all your understanding never got you anywhere. This is why so many men burn out. They invest years in women who were never ready, never capable, never willing to give back what they were demanding. They think they're building love, but they're only building stories that explain why love never arrives. And until you see the trap for what it is, you'll keep circling it, telling yourself the next breakthrough is just around the corner. But the breakthrough never comes, because understanding someone's wounds doesn't heal them. It just chains you to their pain while your own needs are quietly suffocated. Here's where men make their biggest mistake. We borrow the logic of medicine and try to apply it to love. In medicine, if you identify the cause of a disease, you can design a treatment plan. You find the root, you fix the problem. If someone has cancer, doctors don't spend years psychoanalyzing why the tumor exists. They treat it. They cut it out. They act. But in relationships, men do the opposite. She's emotionally unavailable, and you start tracing her attachment style. She lies or manipulates, and you go digging into her trauma. She's unreliable, and you dissect her history with men to find clues. You think that if you can identify the root, you'll eventually cure the behavior. That's the medical model fallacy. It feels scientific. It feels logical. But it fails every single time in love. Because here's the brutal truth. Understanding the cause does not create change. A pattern that's been alive for 10 or 20 years won't disappear just because you figured out where it started. Dysfunction doesn't dissolve with empathy. It takes relentless effort, deep accountability, and a genuine desire to change. And none of those can come from you. They have to come from her. The medical model also tricks you into playing the wrong role. Instead of being her partner, you become her unpaid therapist. You diagnose. You explain. You try to support her healing journey. But therapy and romance don't mix. Once you take the therapist's seat, she takes the client's seat. The dynamic shifts, and attraction dies. You're no longer evaluating her as a partner. You're managing her as a patient. And the more you invest in that role, the further you drift from the love you actually wanted. And here's the dangerous part. It feels noble. It feels compassionate. You tell yourself you're staying because you care, because you're strong, because you're not like other men who leave when things get tough. But the truth is harsher. You're not staying out of strength. You're staying out of fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of starting over. Fear that maybe no one else will want you. And instead of admitting that, you mask it with the language of understanding. This is what I call responsibility displacement. When you're busy analyzing her wounds, neither of you has to face the present truth. She doesn't have to confront the fact that she's choosing not to change. You don't have to confront the fact that you're choosing to stay in a relationship that doesn't meet your needs. Both of you can hide inside the safety of therapy mode, always processing, always analyzing, never improving. That's why some relationships drag on for years without moving forward. They're stuck in the endless loop of explanation. You become experts at talking about problems, but amateurs at solving them. And deep down, you know the truth. You're not building love. You're just building excuses. Escaping this cycle requires one shift. Stop asking why she does what she does. Start asking what she's willing to do about it now. Is she taking action? Is she stepping up? Or is she just comfortable being understood without ever changing? Until you demand answers to those questions, you'll stay trapped in a therapy session that never ends. Once you've been trapped long enough in the cycle of understanding, another illusion creeps in: the savior complex. You don't just want to love her anymore. You want to rescue her. You start believing you were put in her life for a reason, that you are the one man who won't abandon her, that you can heal wounds no one else could touch. And that belief feels intoxicating, because let's be real, it feels good to be the hero. To imagine that your patience makes you noble, that your endurance proves your love is special. You're not just her boyfriend, you're her healer, her protector, the man strong enough to carry her pain. That story flatters your ego. It makes you feel chosen. But the reality is far less romantic. The savior complex doesn't make you strong. It makes you vulnerable to the wrong women. Here's the danger when you focus on who she could be instead of who she is right now. You set yourself up for heartbreak. You start dating her potential. You ignore her reality. You tell yourself you're investing in her future self, but the only thing you're actually investing in is disappointment. She doesn't need to change for you. She only needs to seem like she's changing just enough to keep you hooked. And the worst part, this mindset destroys your boundaries. Every time she crosses a line, you explain it away. It's not her fault, she's been through too much. Every time she treats you poorly, you forgive her instantly because you see her pain behind the behavior. You think compassion requires self-sacrifice. But what's really happening is your empathy is being turned against you. It's no longer protecting her, it's destroying you. The savior trap is especially dangerous because it attracts women who don't want to change. They want to be saved. They want the comfort of your patience without the responsibility of their own growth. And they're skilled at showing just enough vulnerability to keep you invested. You think progress is being made. But in truth, nothing changes. They're not healing. They're just feeding off your effort. The only way out is to accept a truth most men resist. You cannot save her. You cannot love someone into becoming a better partner. You cannot turn therapy into romance. Your role is not healer. Your role is partner. And until you reclaim that role, you'll keep getting pulled into relationships where you're the unpaid therapist instead of the man she respects. So what's the alternative? Shift your entire mindset. Stop treating relationships like a rescue mission. Start treating them like a hiring process. Think of dating as an interview, not a rehab center. In the workplace, if someone applies for a job without the skills, you don't spend months coaching them into competence. You simply don't hire them. You move on. Why should love be any different from romance? When you adopt the job interview frame, everything becomes clearer. You stop investing in potential. You start evaluating current ability. You stop feeling guilty for having standards. You recognize your time, your energy, and your heart as valuable resources, not charity. Employers don't apologize for being selective. Neither should you. And when you embrace this, something powerful happens. You stop being the man who saves broken women. You become the man who chooses healthy ones. And that shift alone can save you years of pain and wasted effort. Once you stop playing savior, Another illusion still lingers, the idea that time will fix everything. Men call it patience. Women call it a healing journey. I call it the timing trap. It starts with a simple belief: deep change takes time. And because you don't want to look selfish or cold, you tell yourself that waiting is love, that pressure would ruin her progress, that if you just hold on long enough, eventually she'll become the partner you've been hoping for. But here's the ugly truth. Time doesn't heal people who don't want to change. Time only exposes their patterns. Think about it. 6 months go by, and you're still having the same conversations. A year passes, and you're still excusing the same behavior. She says she's working on herself, but nothing in her actions proves it. Meanwhile, you're losing track of your own standards. You've accepted things you once swore you'd never tolerate. And every month you stay, it becomes harder to leave, because you've already invested so much. That's the trap. The timing illusion convinces you that your patience is progress. But patience without results is just wasted time. Adults are responsible for their own growth. If she's still dragging the same wounds from her past into your present, that's not healing, that's avoidance. And when you tolerate it, you're not helping her, you're enabling her. This is why you need something most men never develop: an investment protection strategy. Instead of giving your heart away on day one, you treat early dating like an evaluation period. You don't bond immediately, you observe. You don't excuse behavior, you test for compatibility. You don't convince yourself she just needs time. You ask whether she's already showing the qualities you require in a long-term partner. And here's where men go wrong. Once they feel attraction, they rush into attachment. And once they're attached, they start rewriting the rules. They lower their standards. They accept excuses. They start telling themselves stories to justify why she isn't meeting their needs. That's not love, that's addiction. Investment protection means keeping emotional distance until she proves, with consistent action, that she's capable of the relationship you want. It doesn't make you cold. It makes you disciplined. It means you value your heart enough not to hand it over to the first person who sparks your interest. Because here's the harsh truth most of the time. Problematic behavior isn't a phase, it's a pattern. And patterns are character. If she's unreliable now, she'll be unreliable later. If she's emotionally unavailable now, she'll be emotionally unavailable later. The story of why doesn't matter. The story doesn't change the outcome. So stop dating who she could become. Start evaluating who she is right now. If she can't give you what you need today, chances are she never will. And the longer you wait, the more of your life you waste on a future that's never coming. If the timing trap doesn't drain you, another manipulation will: the exploitation of your empathy. Problematic women have mastered this tactic. They've learned that if they share their deepest wounds at the right moment, they can turn your natural instinct to protect into a weapon against you. Here's how it works. Every time you consider pulling away, she opens up about her trauma. Every time you think about setting boundaries, she reminds you of her pain. Suddenly, you feel guilty for wanting more. You start telling yourself she needs understanding, not pressure. Her past becomes more important than your present reality. Her wounds outweigh your well-being. Her healing journey overshadows your relationship satisfaction. And the more emotionally intelligent you are, the easier it is for her to exploit you, because you pride yourself on being patient, compassionate, supportive. But those very qualities get turned against you. You're manipulated into believing that prioritizing her healing is noble, while prioritizing your needs is selfish. That's how empathy becomes a cage. The timing of these revelations is rarely random. Notice how new layers of trauma always seem to appear when you're ready to leave. That's not coincidence. That's strategy. It's just enough vulnerability to keep you invested, just enough pain to reset your guilt. And once again, you stay. This cycle makes you complicit in your own mistreatment. You start believing that endurance proves your moral character, that accepting dysfunction makes you strong. But it doesn't. It makes you blind to the truth you're being trained to confuse self-sacrifice with love. And while you're trapped in that loop, another obsession creeps in: diagnostic obsession. Instead of asking whether she can actually meet your needs, you drown yourself in psychology. You research attachment styles. You read about trauma responses. You study personality disorders. You spend hours analyzing her behavior like a case study. It feels productive. Every new insight feels like progress. Every label feels like a breakthrough. But knowledge without power to create change is useless. Understanding that her volatility comes from abandonment doesn't make living with it any less exhausting. Recognizing that her issues stem from childhood doesn't stop those issues from wrecking your relationship. Diagnostic obsession convinces you that learning is progress, but it isn't. It's just another trap. You become an expert in her problems instead of an expert in your own standards. You gain knowledge while losing years of your life. Here's the truth: the more you study her, the less you evaluate her. And that's why nothing ever improves. Because you're not supposed to be her therapist. You're supposed to be her partner. And if she can't meet you as a partner, no amount of research, no amount of understanding, no amount of empathy will ever fix that. One of the most dangerous lies men believe is the timeline illusion. The belief that healing is always happening, even when there's no proof. You've heard it before: healing isn't linear. Progress takes time. Don't pressure me. And because you don't want to be the bad guy, you nod your head and wait. You wait through the tears, through the excuses, through the endless promises that tomorrow will be better. But tomorrow never comes. The reality: some people don't want to change. They want the benefits of being broken without the responsibility of healing. And while you're waiting patiently, convincing yourself that progress is just around the corner, your life is slipping away. Years can be wasted in the name of support, while nothing actually improves. Here's why dysfunction often comes with rewards. Psychologists call it secondary gain. When someone gets attention, sympathy, or control from their struggles, those struggles stop being problems. They become assets. Thinks about it. Playing the victim means she doesn't have to take responsibility. Emotional volatility means she can control the room. Fragility earns her special treatment. Crisis after crisis ensures she's always the center of your focus. For her, there's no motivation to get better. Why would she? Her dysfunction works for her. And every time you show patience, every time you offer understanding, you're not helping. You're reinforcing the very behavior you want to end. She's not resisting healing because she can't. She's resisting because she doesn't want to give up the benefits that come with being damaged. That's why you need a strategy most men never develop: self-selection. Instead of pouring yourself into fixing someone who doesn't want to be fixed, you only choose partners who are already capable of love, stability, and accountability. You filter for present capacity, not future potential. This requires standards and discipline. You don't excuse emotional chaos because she's beautiful. You don't ignore red flags because you're lonely. You don't settle for she'll get better one day because you're afraid. afraid of being alone today. You hold out for women who have already done their own work, women who don't need saving, women who can actually show up as partners, not projects. Yes, it's harder. Yes, it means walking away from situations that feel exciting but unstable, but that's the price of protecting your future. Self-selection isn't about being harsh, it's about being wise. Because the truth is, when you have abundance, when you've built yourself into a man with options, you don't need to accept dysfunction just to feel chosen. You get to choose. And when you choose wisely, everything changes. You stop being the guy who waits years for someone to heal. You stop being the guy who confuses patience with progress. You become the man who invests only in people who are ready to invest back. Boundaries are not about control. They're about truth. The moment you set a line, something clear, something reasonable, you see who she really is. If she respects it, she's capable of partnership. If she resists, manipulates, or punishes you for it, then she's showing you she'll never be ready. You don't need her backstory. You don't need to decode her trauma. Her reaction to your boundaries tells you everything. This is the part most men miss. They think understanding her story is what creates intimacy. They believe that knowing why she's broken somehow justifies staying. But knowing the why doesn't change the what. It doesn't stop the betrayal. It doesn't erase the chaos. It doesn't transform dysfunction into love. All it does is give you more reasons to tolerate what should have been a deal breaker from the start. The hard truth is this understanding doesn't heal people. It chains you to their wounds. The more you get it, the more patient you become. The more patient you become, the more you accept. And before you know it, years of your life are gone. You've become the man who explains everything, excuses everything, endures everything, and receives nothing. That's why boundaries matter. Boundaries keep you from losing yourself in endless analysis. Boundaries protect your sanity from being weaponized against you. Boundaries shift the focus from her excuses to her choices. Because her choices today are a preview of your future, and the future doesn't lie. If she's unreliable now, she'll be unreliable later. If she's emotionally unavailable now, she'll be emotionally unavailable later. If she can't respect you now, she won't magically respect you tomorrow. The story doesn't matter. The excuses don't matter. What matters is this is she showing up for you right now. Compatibility is not a project you build. It's a reality you recognize. It's not hidden behind years of patience or endless therapy sessions. It's in front of you, in the way she acts, in the way she treats you, in the way she handles the word no. Compatibility is discovered, not created. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you free yourself from the trap of trying to understand your way into love. The men who break free from this trap are the men who finally get it. Love is not about potential. Love is about reality. The most attractive, most successful men don't waste time decoding dysfunction. They don't lower themselves to accommodate someone else's limitations. They set standards, enforce boundaries, and choose partners who are ready now, not someday, not if, not maybe. And this is where you decide who you're going to be. Are you going to keep being the man who explains, excuses, and suffers, or are you going to become the man who evaluates, decides, and chooses? The man who stops playing therapist and starts living like a leader. The man who demands reality instead of clinging to potential. Because here's the truth. You can't escape the man who tries to understand stays stuck. The man who sets standards walks free. If this message cut deep, it's because part of you already knows it's true. Don't ignore that feeling. Act on it. Share this with a man who needs to hear it before he wastes another year of his life. And if you're ready to step out of the role of healer and into the role of chooser, subscribe now, because what's coming next will change the way you see women, love, and yourself forever.